Hi, I just wanted to go through a quick process that I'm going through with a client at the moment who is purchasing one of the bulls, QMU M10. So what I suggested, because they have a couple of stud Angus heifers that they purchased off another stud, and they're going to join my bull to those two heifers, we thought it'd be a good idea just to run through and give a mating predicted outcome from that joining. So this is I just want to go through the process that I go through to do this. So I've logged on to the Angus Tech website, which is you can get through the Angus Australia website. You can see the URL up here, angus.tech. Now I'm a registered user, so I've logged on. It certainly gives you more information. So if you're a registered member, then this is what you'd be able to see. If you're not, I guess if you're purchasing animals, looking to purchase animals, these are the sort of reports you could be asking for or going through with your supplier also. This is my basic details, so that's me. I'm then going to go to first have a look at the individual animals. So I'm going to go to the Angus Tech database search, which I've got here now, Angus database search. So in here, all I'm going to do is identify the three animals. So we've got the bull and we've got the two heifers that are going to be joined. We put those in the animal ID. If we had the animal's name or any of these other search criteria, we could do the same thing. So I just put in the three registration numbers separated by a comma, and then go to the bottom here and hit search. What I'm looking for here is actually just a lot more detail on the animals. And for this purpose, I'm going to do a comparison because it's mainly EBVs that we want to do the comparisons on. And then we'll go into the mating predictor, and that gives us coefficiencies and inbreeding and that sort of information also. So here we can see we've got the three different animals. So if I just click on M10, that brings up that he's Clunes crossing Mighty M10, HBR, he's a male, it gives his birth date, his registration number. And then we go down to the EBV section. So this is actually under the summary tab. You can probably see over here under the summary tab. If we just want to look at any of these others, we can click into those. So EBVs as an example, which we may do soon. But so this is the summary. So it gives you all of the different EBVs. You can see here accuracy. So that's the predicted accuracy of the EBVs at this stage in this bull's life. That increases the more data that goes in. Genomics, if we do genomics, and then most importantly, any calves that hit the ground from this bull, and as they get measured, they feed back in and give him a higher accuracy as well. And the third line here is percentage. So that's the percentage that he sits of the breed. So you can see scrotal size, he's the top 1%. So, you know, he has very large testicles and in the top 1% of all animals. In the birth weight of plus 4.1, that puts him in the top 42%. 200 days top 26%, 400 days top 17, and 600 days top 10. So potentially a late maturing animal, and he's going to be, you know, sort of shining above, you know, the other 90% at the 600 day weight. So that's this animal. So what we've got down the bottom, we can also we can see the indexes here. So Angus index top 15 at 128, domestic index top 20 at 115, heavy grain fed top 18 at 137, and heavy grass fed top 11%. So that's you know, that's a bull with well above average, you know, all in the top 20% indexes. So if you are heading for one of those markets, at a glance, that gives you there's obviously a formula that I'm not going to go into at the moment, but there's a formula applied to arrive at these dollar indexes. We can see the maternal traits, the growth traits on the graph, mature cow weight, scrotal size, so that's what we were looking at before, top 1%. So we can see on the right hand, so the line in the middle here is the breed average. So if he's absolutely breed average, we would see no colour either side. As they're above average or as they're below average, of these traits, then they go to the left for below average and to the right for above average. Hence I was saying that the indexes are all in the top 20%. So that's the bull. So that's sort of what we look at generally. So we can see down here also carcass weight is going to be what's that in the top 30%. Eye muscle area, good size eye muscle area, slightly below average for rib and rump. Now I know that these clients are selling into a feedlot, so that's not as important to have that. Sort of doing ability is also expressed there. And we've got retail beef yield, so that again is going to be important for the feedlot. Intermuscle fat, he's slightly above average. So that's what we know about the bull. If we go down now, we can see the heifers here, the Ascot Terry M345. So obviously that's saying it's from Ascot stud. We can see the registration number of the animal there. So we just click on that. Again, it brings up the same page, and we can go through and have a look at the breeding of this animal. So there's the breeding. You can see over here it's from an unknown, the dam is from an unknown sire and unknown dam, which means that it can only be APR registered. So we know this isn't a HPR like the bull is, it's an APR. So herd book registered versus the Angus registration. So Angus still recognised the animal, but she's not a HBR, a herd book register, which is the highest registration, and that's all because there's no verification on the dam or the sire of the dam of this animal. We can see that the sire is Ascot hallmark. So then we go down to the EBVs, and we're looking at, we can see there, but I think it's probably just as easy to have a look. So, if we're looking at individual numbers, this is where we need to know more about what these mean. If it's just for this exercise, we're just doing a quick review to see the potential of a joining. So we can see the indexes. M10 as we're looking for before, he was all up in the top 20. So this heifer is above average for 3 and a bit below average for the domestic index. Maternal trait's not as solid as the bull, although gestation length is better, so a little bit shorter. But we've got a heavier birth weight. So we've got a birth weight here. If we come up here again of plus 5.7, whereas the bull, if we just click back into him, was plus 4.1, so a lighter birth weight, which put him a little bit above average. Right, so we'll just go back into this animal and have a look. So Ascot Terry M345. So when I'm doing these joinings, I'm sort of looking for what are the assets we're going to double down on, and what are the parts that we'd like to correct. So if I was joining a bull to this heifer, I'd be looking for better maternal, with the view that I was going to keep the offspring, or sell the bulls to my clients, or to keep the daughters myself. I'd be looking for better maternal than what this heifer is offering. Milk is low, so what we know there is that's expressed by the lighter live weight or heavier live weight of the calf. So she's not actually giving up much of her milk to the calf, so she's sort of tending to look after herself a little bit, which may even feed into the rib and rump fat that we're seeing down here. But anyway, that's not necessarily related. So milk, we know that she's short on milk. Good scrotal size again. Days to calving good, so in other words, she gets back in to calf earlier, which is a good trait to have, and potentially because she's not giving up as much milk as what the breed average is. Eye muscle area is down in the bottom 15%, so that's not a great carcass trait, or the carcass weight's okay. Rib and rump is solid, so that animal would stay a little bit fatter, or would look a bit fatter in the paddock than what one with the equivalent in the negative might be. Retail beef yield is negative, so we'd want to be correcting that for the feedlot outcomes as well. And the feedlot would probably want us to sort out a little bit of the eye muscle here and add as much intermuscle fat as possible, but above breed average is good for an Angus. These traits down here, feet angle, claw, and so on. So obviously the Ascot studs had them assessed, and what we're seeing here is more sound is good, breed average, and then less sound. So, you know, structurally not a bad animal, or certainly not, you know, a bit better than breed average in these, other than the front foot angle. Right, so we just have a quick look at the third animal. We'll go straight down here. So we can see here there's a lot more to correct. So we've got poor indexes, poor maternal, average to below average growth. Again, not giving any as much milk as what I'd like to see to the calf, so well below average. Yeah, so you know, you can see on here, left being below average, right being above average. If we look at our strengths, retail beef yield is good in this case, very low intermuscle fat, which would be, you know, that and the eye muscle area is okay, you know, in the top 20%. So that, as at a glance, if we're just doing a very quick assessment at a glance without digging too much deeper, you know, we can see what we've got to try to fix to even get it back to breed average. So they're the three animals. Just thought we'd have a quick look at those to show what each animal provides. If we then, we can see up the top here, there's tools, and in that tools is mating predictor. So I'm just going to click into that, which takes me into, I'll just go back on this one. So here's the mating predictor. Angus mating predictor, you can see over here. So I'm going to put in the sire ident. So the purchased bull was QMU M10, and the dam identities are these two, Q, QF, and so on. So we put the two dams in here separated by a comma, and then hit search. So what this is going to produce is the estimated or predicted outcome of these two joining. So it's really, all it is at this stage is half from the sire and half from the dam. So you know, there's nothing more until raw data goes in and the calf hits the ground. We do scanning, weights, and everything else. All the mating predictor is going to show, you know, what the likely outcome is if that animal got exactly half of the traits of the male and half of the traits of the female, which we know rarely happens, but you know, this is a good idea. Inbreeding coefficiency is important as well. So we can see here there's no problem. At 2%, there's no problem with inbreeding. So that's fine. That's sort of one of the first tests. We can see that the dam ident is going to be matched up with the sire ident to produce. So let's just click in here. And that's showing the joining of these two. It gives the information from both animals, gives all of the EBVs, and again, what percentage would the calf be in with this joining. And if we're just going to use the quick glance graph again, you can see compared to what the female was, that he's doing quite a bit of correcting, and we're ending up with an average to above average, certainly above average with growth. Again, I'd probably like to work a little bit more on the maternal, but there's nothing overly disastrous in that for this intended use. Milk has been shortened up a lot, so again, we're going to get a better growth in our calves, because if the joining resulted in a daughter that we wanted to keep, she's been corrected there again. Very good scrotal size, which is also linked to fertility. And we're starting to see above average carcass traits down here, you know, which is pretty sound, and a big correction on where that heifer was. So if we have a look at the other heifer, so she had the most work that we needed to do on her. Come down to so we can see we haven't been able to correct the maternal, which were sort of off the scale, not great. We've brought the indexes back to just below average, which is a big improvement, thanks to M10 being in the top 20%. So that's brought that back. Hasn't been able to do all of the work required down in the carcass traits to sort of bring all of those back in. But retail beef yield is still strong, and eye muscle area is good. Intermuscle fat still below average, and the rib and rump, which is helping with the retail beef yield, is still a little bit below average, which is fine. Rib and rump, it really is dependent on the intended use of the animal, whether that is good or not. Seeing a lot of AI sires coming out of the US with extremely low fats, but very high retail beef yield as a result. So that in a glance is just quickly what M10 is going to be able to do with these animals. I just now want to, just by comparison, want to show you what M10 might do, what M13, so that's our soon to be famous now AI sire Clunes crossing Dusty M13 that if you follow me on Facebook you might have seen a bit of information and all that on, now owned by Paringa, a joint venture between Brenton Sessions and Tom Lawson. And this is his graph. This is his graph alone. So we can see off the chart, so top 1% for all indexes, more or less top 1% for all growth, although top 2% for 600 days. There's not a lot not to like about this this animal. Off the charts for carcass and eye muscle, top 10% for retail beef yield and intermuscle fat, while being breed average. So used to universally breed average for the fats. Scrotal size a little bit below average, though he's been in an AI program now. He's giving up semen for AI purposes for the last 12 months, or really since he was a bit older than yearling, and has been very successful. I actually have a picture of his semen up on the web page, on my Facebook page, which show he actually had 95% viable semen, so very, very healthy animal. So let's have a look at what he does. I'm just going to go back here and do the same mating predictor process that I did for M10, which I think M10 is going to do the job for this client very nicely. So let's have a look at the joining, same heifers, different bull, and let's see what the result is and whether M13 would correct him if we're going to AI. So you can see here with that heifer, we're now making, giving this animal the best chance possible to be an above average animal. And while she had a lot to correct, a bull as strong as M13 gives this joining the best opportunity to really advance the genetic improvement between generations, which is sort of what I always look to do. Now, a lot of people sort of probably question the use of EBVs or indexes alone, and I agree. I don't think they should be used alone. We still need the animal to be structurally sound, great phenotype, very well natured, so we want them to be docile. So all of those important traits that is all that we used to have in the olden days, before my time in joining this program 10 years ago, but that's all we had to go for. Now we've got this immense amount of data that genomics also, which is a DNA sampling, also feeds into, and I'm really pleased with what Angus is doing in this way, and they're collecting a lot of data, doing comparisons, looking for links in DNA and performance, and then making it very easy for seed stock producers like myself, or for commercial buyers to have an at-a-glance look at whether that animal has certain strengths or certain weaknesses compared to other animals. So all we're doing with this is comparing it to breed average and saying, from that joining, we've produced, because M13 is such an exceptional animal, we're now correcting what was a well below average dam into the progeny having the best chance to be a well above average animal. So this is what the mating predictor does. If we have a look at the other animal, which was probably needing the most help, we're starting to see that where indexes are all fine, very acceptable in top 10% or 20%. So that's awesome. We know at a glance, if we're looking at using the Angus breed index as a guide, top 10%, we're going to be happy with that. Domestic index, awesome at probably top 5%, or it is top 5%. Heavy grass and heavy grain, both top 10 and top 20. Haven't been able to fix the scrotal issue with this joining. Not that that's disastrous. M13 himself was sort of a little bit lower than breed average, and the dam was well below average. So anyway, without going through them individually, at a glance we're seeing what the difference is with those animals. I'll just see now if I can bring up that particular cow, So that was her raw figures, and this is the progeny's figures. I might just line that up a bit so it's easier. Right, so if we just have a look at the two, so this is the predicted outcome of the joining with M13 compared to the raw data from that cow. So she had a lot of work to do with the strength of M13, the potential outcome, not the actual outcome, but the potential outcome for that joining, which when I'm doing the blending for my AI program, I'm running through this process, feeding different bulls into the cow herd, looking for different outcomes, and I'm looking when I'm choosing an AI sire, I'm looking for particular strengths, and again assuming, or please assume that I've done the structural assessment, I've done the docility assessment, and I'm happy with the general look and feel and phenotype structure of the bull. And now I'm just sort of comparing, is his birth weight super high, or is it super low, or is it breed average, or where is it? And what, if I'm joining to heifers, I'm looking for a low birth weight. If my clients are selling their weaners at, I'll just jump back over to that joining. So by comparison, if my clients are looking for bulls because they're to join to their cows and their market is selling weaners, then we want a strong 200 day weight, obviously, because they're selling it around 200 days, and on we go. Just depending on what the market is that we're looking for, we can come through, look for the traits that we particularly want to be strong, or certainly not to be weak, and make sure that the joining is going to give us that outcome. If we're joining poor performance animal with poor performance animal, we're not going to get any genetic improvement between one generation and the next. With my program, I'm looking for a change. I'm looking for an improvement between one generation and the next. So from mother being passed down to daughter, etc. I'm looking for improvement. So I never try to make a weaker animal, but I might be doubling down on certain traits, like growth, or like birth weight, or like carcass traits, or like maternal, to give you the outcome that I'm looking for. So there we go. There at a glance, that's a very quick run through what the mating predictor can provide, when you're running through and comparing animals. So I was doing this for a client anyway. I thought that I would just record it so that you too can have a look at the process that we go through. Thanks for tuning in.